So I've watched him for a long time, and he's a very sharp lawyer. He is both a politician and a statesman. But the question we're going to ask tonight in the piece that we're doing is, who's he operating for here? Who's he working for? Is he working for the son of his good friend, George H.W. Bush?
Like, he's the puppet master behind that family doing business with the Saudis and the Bin Ladens, right? So unless James Baker is on public trial, we really didn't get to the people who are doing this to us. And I don't think that we should take the sacrifice of their theater actors as anything but an admission on their part that they have to start evolving and adapting, because we have learned and we have changed how we act as Americans. We have gone from being apathetic to taking action. And you're knowingly backing somebody who has murdered over 1 million people because the Congress didn't vote us to war. We are not technically at war.
In case you haven't read a newspaper in 4 years, this country, your country, is at war.
Actually, technically, Operation Iraqi Freedom is an extended military engagement. War's not been declared.
It's all on the president and the vice president and their orders that put us there. Okay? So really, those guys are responsible for the murder of 1 million Iraqi citizens, over 4,000 U.S. troops, and 50,000 troops who were so wounded that they will never fully recover to their pre-Iraq war state. Now that, if it's not a call for people to wake up and smell the tyranny, I don't know what is.
Well, yeah, that, plus, let's not forget, the cost of this war totally broke the back of our economy.
Well, and let's not forget they stole $2.3 trillion the day before 9/11, and on 9/11 they blew up the part that had the accounting records, and they blew up the building with the Enron records, right? I mean, so those guys, again, I hate to use the line, but it's grand theft country, and people need to understand that it's not just the money. They took the resources. The gold is missing. Everything that we had as resources as Americans. I mean, look. Right after H.W. Bush got out of the presidency, he bought a $10 billion gold mine for, $10,000? Yeah, Barrick Gold Mines. This is what Greg Palast talks about. In addition to the stolen election and how they bought the election, everything. When you understand all this stuff in context, and you understand that the regime in power is artificially there. They rigged an election. They stole an election. They are not the elected, leaders of this country, or we the American people.
I could give you a little bit of that story, which is after George Bush left the White House, he went to work for a gold mining company and named Barrick Gold Mining. Just before he leaves the White House, the rules are changed for gold mining companies so that they can lay claim to gold mining properties in the U.S. in the way that the old prospectors used to, find a nugget of gold and you get an acre of land for $5 and just stake a claim, the old claim stakes law. Well, Bush's administration changed it so that corporations could use a special expedited procedure, and Barrick picked up the largest gold mine in the hemisphere, $10 billion worth of ore, paid the U.S. government $10,000. Then Bush gets a job with these guys. Later, what does Bush help them do? He helps them get a gold mine concession in Tanzania, and here's where the story turns a little grim. The gold mining property was already being mined by Tanzanians. No surprise in Tanzania, but that's not such a good deal for Bush and his buddies. So the company that they're trying to buy, which has some rights to dig on this property, runs bulldozers across the property. This is August 1996. Military police are firing weapons, smash down the workers' homes and fill in their mining pits, chase the workers away with guns firing. But in the chaos, there were 50 miners still in the mining pits when they were sealed up, buried alive. Well, it's the U.S. media that I have a problem with. I have a particular problem because I have to swim across the Atlantic to report major stories. From the theft of the U.S. election to Bush is spiking the investigation of the Bin Laden family in America to basically the real story of Enron and the sale of America to the corporate donors of both the Democratic and Republican parties. If I want to tell that story, I have to tell it from Europe. My stories run all over the planet, not just Britain, BBC, but this is the flagship news program of the world, Newsnight, and it goes to Europe, it goes to South America, it goes to Asia. I can't get through or over the electronic Berlin Wall in America.
And I think I'm done with this interview.
Wait, well, let me just show you the contract, if I could, Mr. Roberts. Wait, it says here, right in the contract, that the verification is supposed to be done by DBT, that you paid them $4 million. Don't you? It could look to other people that you paid $4 million to purchase this election for the Republican Party, Mr. Roberts.
And they did a really good job of fooling us for a while. But now we're on to it, and this information is not going to go away, and there's nothing they can do, really, to make that information go away. They can try some scare tactic and some other little fixed terrorist attack, but it's not going to make all these millions of people unknow what they know.
Right. Well, what do you guys both think about the candidates that we are getting from the One World Order, Obama and McCain?
Well, you know, I don't trust McCain as far as I can throw that guy. I mean, he's got a long history, you know, going back to the Hanoi Hilton and his dad being a high-ranking naval officer and him getting special treatment.
The neighborhoods are safe. We walk down the streets with no body armor on.
McCain's delegation was guarded by more than 100 American soldiers with 3 Black Hawk helicopters and 2 Apache gunships overhead.
General Petraeus goes out there almost every day in an unarmed Humvee.
Because I checked with General Petraeus' people overnight, and they said that he never goes out in anything less than an up-armored Humvee.
Well, I'm not saying that they could go without protection. I've been involved in every national security issue for the last 20 years. I am prepared. I am prepared, need no on-the-job training. Al-Qaeda is going back into Iran and receiving training.
You said that the Iranians were training Al-Qaeda.
I'm sorry.
Extremists.
I'm sorry. The Iranians are training extremists, not Al-Qaeda. I've come here and told these people, never again will a disaster, either natural or man-made, be mishandled in this fashion.
McCain said if he were in charge during Katrina, he would have been on the ground helping.
The morning that Katrina made land, mere hours after it hit, where was Senator McCain? Celebrating his own birthday with President Bush right next to Air Force One on the ground in Arizona.
Senator McCain, you have said repeatedly, quote, I know a lot less about economics than I do about military and foreign policy issues. I still need to be educated.
Actually, I don't know where you got that quote from.
I got it from John McCain, and here it is.
I will not yield. I will not rest. I will not relent in waging this struggle for freedom and security for the American people.
Quote, I'm going to be honest. I know a lot less about economics than I do about military and foreign policy issues. I still need to be educated.
I've got to convince people, because of my extensive background on the economy and knowledge. I don't have that kind of expertise to know exactly whether he has cut interest rates sufficiently or not.
Senator McCain, are Americans better off than they were 8 years ago?
I think you could argue that Americans overall are better off.
Senator, you do not believe we are better off by any means than we were 8 years ago.
Oh, no. We let spending get completely out of control. Of course those tax cuts have to remain permanent. I voted against the tax cuts.
You voted to extend them?
I voted to extend them. I voted against the tax cut. I've always been for tax cuts. We either keep our word or we don't keep our word. I intend to keep my word to the American people.
So his story from day one has never been as purported. It's the same thing as John Kerry and him being a war hero and throwing his medals back and all that stuff. When you understand that he's a Skull and Bones guy, and that when Skull and Bones and BCCI was being prosecuted, they put their guy Kerry in to act like there's an investigation and there's nothing to see here. Those people are all pawns. They're all actors. They're paid, and they're not working in your interest. They are not representing you. They're not speaking the truth, and they're lying to you every day. And instead of asking them questions, I'd start throwing beers from the seats at these people.
Rudy Giuliani, not just in New York City, but at Yankee Stadium in New York City, roundly booed. And not just roundly booed, but roundly booed during the singing of God Bless America. Our fourth story in the countdown, Fred Thompson's first debate as seen by its co-host, Chris Matthews, in a moment. First, they were not